Hello, you're listening to the Tsunami of Truth podcast for August 10th, 2026. I'm Kristy Allen here on jmcbroadcasting.com. The modern grocery store is the only place on earth where you can buy an apple that was grown in South America, washed in Asia, packaged in Europe, and recalled in Ohio. Thomas Jefferson said, agriculture is our wisest pursuit because it will in the end contribute most to real wealth, good morals, and happiness. Wow, good morals even. And I get it because I've had a garden for each year of my life since I was 16 years old. I love gardening. It takes discipline and respect for life, and it's good, honest hard work with rewards that you can eat. Who knew that it contributed to not only my happiness, but some other important things? Welcome back to the Tsunami of Truth, everybody. Today we are talking about something that touches every single dinner table in America. The complete and total vulnerability of our food system. Now, if you've been watching the news, you know that eating a taco this week has turned into an extreme sport. Federal health officials and the CDC just issued a massive multi-state alert after a major salmonella outbreak forced a recall of fresh jalapenos across 27 states. Hundreds of people are getting sick, restaurants are pulling peppers off their menus, and grocery chains are clearing out entire deli sections. And do you know where the FDA traced the contaminated peppers back to? A single foreign supplier in Sinaloa, Mexico. Yeah, same place we shipped the cartels back to. And isn't that comforting? We live in the most fertile, agriculturally blessed nation on the face of the planet, and yet we are importing peppers across international borders only to end up playing Russian roulette with the salsa night. When people ask why independent voices are demanding that we protect domestic farmers, bring trade back home, and enforce real borders, this is Exhibit A. When a nation outsources its basic agriculture to foreign suppliers, it isn't just an economic risk. It's a vulnerability to our entire national food security. Why are we importing what we can grow in our own backyards? I'll tell you why. We had an invasion of our food supply, the glyphosate invasion. I mean, did anyone ask us, like we the people, before they decided to spray our wheat with cancer-causing chemicals? And how did we get to a point where our produce is imported from thousands of miles away and our domestic fields are soaked in synthetic chemicals? Let's talk about that active chemical ingredient in Roundup, glyphosate. When chemical companies first brought glyphosate to market in 1974, farmers used it carefully around crop rows, but in 1996, everything changed. Monsanto introduced Roundup Ready seeds, genetically modified soybeans, corn, and cotton, designed to withstand direct overhead spraying of chemical herbicides. So back to our question. Did we, the people, vote on whether we wanted genetically engineered crops sprayed overhead with broad-spectrum chemicals? And of course, the answer is no. It was not put on a ballot. There was no national referendum. Instead, regulatory agencies stamped it with substantial equivalence. That's the bureaucratic term for don't ask questions, just eat your cereal. By the 2000s, glyphosate wasn't just being sprayed on GMO crops to kill weeds. It became standard agricultural practice to spray non-GMO wheat, oats, and barley right before harvest as a drying agent or desiccant. So think about that for a second. That means chemical sprays were applied directly to the grain right before it was milled into your morning oat cereal or wheat bread. Fast forward to today, and chemical companies have faced thousands of lawsuits from farmers, groundskeepers, and consumers who developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Bayer has handed out over $10 billion in legal settlements, while state legislatures and federal courts debated how to handle pesticide labeling and corporate preemption. Yeah, Bayer owns Monsanto. The German chemical and pharmaceutical behemoth acquired Monsanto in June of 2018 for $63 billion. Immediately after completing the acquisition, Bayer officially retired the Monsanto brand name, of course, to distance itself from the heavy public controversy surrounding it. However, Bayer retained ownership of all Monsanto's products, seed patents, and agricultural operations, including Roundup, still sold in stores everywhere, which is why Bayer has been the primary defendant in the ongoing multi-billion-dollar lawsuit battles over glyphosate in recent years. When you realize that the average family is surrounded by foreign-sourced produce on one end and chemically sprayed crops on the other, you see why Americans are demanding clean farming, real transparency, and a return to local agriculture. When we look at modern agriculture through a realistic physical lens, the strict boundary between organic and conventional food largely dissolves under the reality of something called environmental drift. Because air and water do not respect property lines or legal certifications. When a conventional field is sprayed with synthetics, pesticides, herbicides, or fertilizers, wind currents routinely carry those airborne particles, that pesticide drift, onto neighboring organic crops. Now, let's be honest, nature doesn't care about your organic label. Wind, rain, and groundwater don't stop at a property line and say, hey, whoa, hold on, guys. That farm paid $5,000 for a USDA organic badge, so turn back. No. Thanks to a pesticide drift, synthetic chemicals routinely hitch a ride on wind currents and irrigation runoff straight into organic fields. Add in pollinating bees and breeze-driven cross-pollination from nearby GMO crops, and the idea of total genetic purity becomes a fantasy. Organic rules govern what a farmer intends to spray, not what the shared atmosphere dumps on their soil. So go ahead and feel special paying $5 for that artisanal, hand-massaged organic pear. Just know that the wind blew the exact same chemical cocktail onto it as the dollar version next to it. In other words, go ahead and think you're special because you can afford to buy organic, but the fact is that overpriced pear is probably not organic. Now, if you think chemical sprays are the only issue, let's look at how corporate monopolies have locked up the seed supply itself. For thousands of years, human farming was simple. You planted a seed, you harvest the crop, you saved the seeds from your best plants, and then you planted them again the following spring. It was the foundation of human survival, self-reliance, and independent living. Then along came corporate ag tech giants armed with patent law. Corporations developed patented seed genetics and genetic use restriction technology, commonly known as terminator seeds. These are seeds genetically altered to produce sterile offspring. Sound familiar? That means a farmer cannot save seeds from their harvest. If they want to plant next year's crop, they have to go back to the corporation and buy a brand new license. And frankly, that is not just irritating, it's outrageous. Think about how many licenses people have to get nowadays. License for just about everything. Hunting, fishing, business license, driver's license. Now, I can understand some of this, but a license just to grow your next crop? Are you kidding me? Think about the sheer nerve of that. They turned the natural life cycle into a software subscription model. When a handful of multinational corporations holds utility patents on the vast majority of corn, soy, and cotton seeds in America, they don't just control a business, they control the food supply. If independent farmers can be sued for saving their own seeds, that isn't just corporate greed. It's the weaponization of agriculture against independent living. Yeah, so let's call this what it really is. When you step back and look at the whole picture, you've got to ask, how did we let corporate greed overtake the basic necessity of life, our food? For 10,000 years, seeds for our food were a common heritage, a gift of nature passed down from generation to generation. No single human being or corporation owned the rights to a seed because everyone understood that seeds belong to the human race. Then, a small handful of corporate executives sat in air-conditioned boardrooms and asked a terrifying question. How do we monetize the very basis of human life? Their answer: patents on life itself. These these people, if you want to call them that, slapped legal patents on seed genetics and engineered them so farmers could not save them, and then turned the global food supply into a paywalled subscription service. Think about that. When corporations pollute our soil with synthetic chemicals, patent nature, and put profit margins ahead of human health, while our people get sicker and sicker. Why are we treating this like standard business as usual? Look, when a corporate boardroom knowingly tampers with the food supply of millions for corporate gain, putting profits ahead of human lives, that isn't just aggressive capitalism, that's a crime against humanity. There, I said it. Why are we allowing a small boardroom of soulless, heartless executives to put people last and profits first? The food supply is not a speculative stock market asset. It is the lifeblood of our families, our children, and our republic. So how do we, the people, turn this around? Do we dismantle this corporate monopoly system and rebuild a food system that is for people instead of for profit? Yeah, I think we do. It's time to stop playing defense and start making corporate food manipulation obsolete. Here's how we turn food production back into a human-first movement. First, we abolish patents on living seeds. We outlaw patents on seeds and crop genetics. Returning seeds to the public domain allows farmers to save, replant, and share them without fear of lawsuits. The next thing is we fund local seed banks across the country. We teach schools and communities to save heritage seeds, and that prevents corporate monopolies on our food supply. Then we need to pass laws making access to clean food and open source seeds a fundamental right, prioritizing public health over corporate shareholder profits. We need to use federal antitrust regulations to break up big ag conglomerates and block buyouts of independent seed companies, family farms, and processors like they've been doing. All those Bill Gates companies. We need to transition farmland into nonprofit land trusts and farmer-owned cooperatives, putting decisions in the hands of local growers rather than Wall Street investors. And also we need to stop subsidizing chemical herbicides, redirect those tax dollars toward university research for soil restoration, organic pest control, and public seed breeding. And lastly, we need to replace the small itty-bitty little fines with criminal liability. We need to hold corporate executives personally responsible when they knowingly distribute contaminated food or hide chemical health risks. Now, when you combine open source seeds, local agriculture, and domestic protection, you get true food sovereignty. Instead of flooding our domestic markets with cheap, uninspected foreign produce, we should be using trade tariffs to protect domestic family farms. Make it cheaper and more rewarding to buy peppers grown in Ohio, tomatoes grown in Arizona, and beef raised in Texas. Support your local farmers market, join a community-supported agriculture program, or plant a garden in your own backyard. Because the closer you are to the source of your food, the harder it is for global supply chain disruptions, foreign recalls, or corporate monopolies to even touch your family. Farmers must have the legal right to save their seeds, and consumers deserve clear, transparent labeling on where their food was grown and what chemicals were sprayed on it before it hit the grocery shelf. Food is the ultimate lever of independence. The moment you grow your own food, buy from local neighbors, and support domestic farms, you take the power out of the hands of global conglomerates and put it right back where it belongs, with the American worker. Emily Dickinson said, "To make a prairie, it takes a clover and one bee." And my counter to that is this: to feed a nation, it takes an independent farmer who isn't owned by a corporate patent office. My idea is, instead of weaponizing weather, what could happen if we harmonized weather capabilities and enhanced farming to include what we can now do to make farming work, including weather to help it along? Isn't that a great forward-looking discussion? What would happen if we came up with more constructive solutions like responsible, science-backed weather technology? So while preparing for this podcast, I looked into some agricultural weather modification that is being actively researched and used today, primarily focused on cloud seeding for drought relief, hail suppression, and snowpack enhancement. And what I found is this: researchers are using drones and electrified water droplets to encourage clouds to produce 10 to 30% more rain over dry farm fields. Also, there's hail protection with specialized planes that can fly into severe storms to turn crop-destroying hail into gentle, harmless rain, saving farmers millions of dollars in damage from hail. Then we have climate-smart farming, and that's farmers who use solar panel shading, targeted drip watering, and weather sensors to keep crops cool and hold moisture in the soil naturally. Now, if you care about the Republic, and I know that my audience dearly does, you have to care about what goes onto your plate, right? Look, our founders knew that a free nation requires independent landowners, strong local farms, and genuine self-reliance. And as we look to the future, imagine what happens when we stop treating nature like a target for corporate exploitation and start asking how human innovation can harmonize with the land. I mean, we're not talking about covert control or boardroom manipulation. We're talking about open, transparent science designed to serve the American farmer instead of going against him. Right now, agricultural researchers at the USDA are developing eco-friendly cloud seeding techniques using charged water vapor and precision drones to trigger rainfall over parched croplands during severe droughts. Farmers across the country are using hail suppression technology to break up destructive ice storms before they flatten thousands of acres of wheat and corn. So imagine a world where weather management isn't a secret corporate tool, but an open source public utility. How about that? Where cloud seeding is used transparently to recharge local aquifers, shade canopy farming protects soil during heat waves, and technology works with the farmer rather than against them. The moment when we take corporate monopolies out of the equation, reclaim our seed supply, and align technology with stewardship, we put power right back where it belongs, with the people who feed this nation. So what do you think? Are you ready to support local domestic farms, demand open source seeds, and embrace a future where technology serves humanity? Because a nation that cannot feed itself, protect its soil, and secure its seed supply is not truly independent. It's just another globalist, for-profit, anti-human, temporary meal plan. It's time to take our power back, patriots, and do whatever it takes to win back what our grandparents took for granted: life-giving, nutritious food that can sustain our sovereign bodies. Hey, thanks for listening to the Tsunami of Truth right here on the John Michael Chambers Alternative News Networks. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, share this episode with a friend, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Kristy Allen. Keep searching, stay vigilant, and stand firm in the truth.
John Michael Chambers continues to lead the way with JMC Broadcasting's military and intelligence reporting. All broadcasts are free to the public. Want more? Get up close and personal with John and guests by joining JMC's Patriot Premium Portal for just $9.99 monthly subscription. Receive JMC's weekly newsletter update, which includes a 60-minute audio of JMC Unplugged, where John highlights in a candid conversation the events of the week. Hear John like you've never heard him before. It's time to get your questions answered live in real time with John Michael Chambers and his highly valued military and intelligence guests. As part of your Patriot Premium subscription, each month you're given access to John and guests on screen for a 60-minute live Q&A. Guests may include, but not limited to, Juan O'Savin, Ricardo Bosi, Sheila Holm, Blaine Holt, Michael Jaco, Sheriff Richard Mack, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, the Patriot Street Fighter Scott McKay, Dr. Mark Sherwood, and many, many others. For just $9.99 per month, you gain access to all this and more. Your subscription fee helps fuel the JMC broadcasting engine at this critical juncture in this global defense war. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com and click on the Patriot Premium Portal subscription promo. Sign up before December 31st, 2025 and receive a free signed paperback copy of John's newest book, Global Financial Reset: Surviving and Thriving the Transition. We are at war and victory is ours. The dawning of the golden age is upon us. And remember, where we go one, we go all. Subscribe today at jmcbroadcasting.com. Won't you join us?